Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Common Sense Medicine in our BSMD series. In this video, I'm going to be talking about standardized tests. I know I talked a little bit about them in my general video, so if you don't know about that, definitely check that out. I also talked about extracurriculars, and that was in last week's video, so definitely check that out as well. So today I'm going to be talking about standardized tests. Again, I wanted to say the opinions are my own. I don't represent my school or employer. And I do go to a BSMD program, but this is not advice specifically tailored to that. It's just in general, what should you do in order to get into a BSMD program as far as standardized tests go? One thing that I do say before I start is that everything is different in terms of the programs that you're applying to. Definitely take a look at the requirements for your specific program. I was trying to be as general as possible when I was talking about this, but there are regional differences. Although, in general, if you think about the rules that I set in this video, you can definitely get a good idea of what standardized tests look like for the BSMD process. So the first thing is that making sure that you can apply. Um, I talked about this in my previous video about getting your GPA set in freshman year because it's hard to kind of get back. You kind of want to look at the top 5 to 10% of your class. And again, the advanced coursework that you need is a part of your test scores. And then your test scores are your AP, your SAT, and your ACT. But we'll get into that in this video. So one thing that I didn't cover in my last video is like what happens if you're late to the game. And for sophomores and juniors, that might mean starting your BSMD application late. And that was where I was. If you don't know, you can check out my podcast with my friend Varun, who's part of the BSMD program that I'm in. And I talk about how I got interested in the BSMD program when I was in junior year. And these are the most important years for improvement of your GPA if you didn't do well in your freshman year. And I think this is where you really have to pick up the pace because I didn't do that well in my freshman year spring semesters, so I kind of had to make up for it in my sophomore year and my junior year. And the competition is fierce if you're going to a school district or a school that is very competitive. But even when you're not going to school that's competitive, and you're thinking of kind of expanding your option with taking AP tests outside your district, I think that it all comes down to your internal drive and your internal motivation for doing better. And obviously, that's something that BSMD programs look for a lot. Even if you don't have these advanced courses, these AP courses at your school, I think that asking around and making sure that you can take this test. It's a big ask, especially when you're studying for a test that you didn't even have to take in the first place. But if you're interested in the course, I think that it's a good way to show initiative. And again, study strategies to kind of improve your GPA. They take the form of active recall, spaced repetition, and active learning. So, definitely the concepts that you learn in these foundational courses will help you later on in life for sure. Even though that they may not be actively tested in a pre-med curriculum. For example, in terms of math, calculus is not really a prereq for the MCAT or medical school, but I think that it plays a large part into how you perform as a doctor just because the work ethic and the skills that you learn in high school as an active learner or a active recaller when you're taking tests will definitely play into your success as a medical student when you're trying to apply that same knowledge to tests and learning about new and novel things in the medical literature. Finally, I like to put this equation at the end of this part of the presentation because output really is the intensity times the time worked. So they have an inverse relationship. If you put in more intensity during your time work, then you work less time. And I truly, truly believe that. If you do want to improve your GPA, if you do want to improve your study strategies, definitely try to ramp up the intensity when you're working so the focus is there when you actually work, and then you'll find that you work less. The third thing that I wanted to talk about was standardized test timeline. A lot of people ask me which test should I take and which like we don't know which test to take, but I think the most important thing to think about when you're thinking about standardized tests is by the start of senior year, you should have finished all your tests for college applications. A lot of people take their SAT in the beginning of senior year, but I think that this is a mistake just because you want to be as sure as possible going into the college applications timeline, and you want to focus all your energy on essays and preparing that perfect application that you can put out. And even if it's not perfect, you want to have the best representation of you. And I know that this is a hard ask because a lot of people like to retake their SAT at the end of junior year. And I say SAT, but you can also take the ACT. I know that there are certain requirements that you need for the SAT for each program. I think it's a 1500 or 34 on the ACT or the new one. I think my year it was 2300 because I had the old SAT, and the ACT I think was again 34, but I think the timing should be sophomore year spring or junior year fall. And again, this is not a usual time when many people take it, but I think that it's a good time to give yourself that 1.5 years or the 1 year to really prepare your application, prepare your extracurriculars, because it allows you to focus on that specifically. If you really take the time and work, like I said, with intensity over that sophomore year summer or the sophomore year fall, I think that it'll really pay dividends come application season. And even if you're at your junior year, you're in that summer, I don't think it's all over. Although I say testing should be over by then, you can still take it and work on your college applications. A lot of people did, and it turned out fine for them. I think that for me, it's just about preemptive and preventative effort to make sure that you don't sacrifice your time in senior year to worrying about a test that you should have taken in junior year. And finally, this is the time that's dedicated to doing well on standardized tests your sophomore year summer and your sophomore year fall. If you are doing other stuff, I think that it'll take away from this test preparation because it is a largely effort based test. So if you allow yourself to focus on extracurriculars and research and summer opportunities over other summers and leave one for the test prep and reading and growing, I think that it'll allow you to really diversify your assets come college application time. And finally, which test should I take? This is a question that I get asked a lot, and I only took the SAT, but I heard that the ACT is also very good because it tests science. Um, Ultimately, it doesn't matter which test you take because it's really bad for testing intelligence, but it's a good way to test effort and time worked. I took it 4+ years ago, so a lot has changed since then. But if you practice enough and you know the tricks, which test maker sets this up, you are in the best position. You are in the best position to do better on this game. I say game in a way that really emphasizes the gamification of these SAT and ACT tests. It's really comes down to, can I get enough active practice for this test in order to do well? It's the same with basketball, football, or any sport you want to say. The time worked and the intensity worked, as well as the deliberate practice that's put into your preparation will yield dividends. So basically, there are definitely people who make this test seem like the end all be all, and there's a lot of tutoring companies that'll cajole you into their model of thinking. But I think that when you get down to brass tacks, it's all about understanding how the test looks at a question and just figuring out the algorithm to get to the right answer. Because since it's a standardized test, it has to be, in terms of testing, it has to be standard. So everyone should be able to get the answer somehow. So there must be an algorithm for getting the right answer. And for these test prep books, they've gotten very good at understanding how the SAT tests stuff and the ACT test stuff. So I don't think you should have a problem in terms of getting all the books necessary. After all, the BSMD student should have that drive to get all of these books and do this in a way that will allow them to get that minimum benchmark score. So I think these standardized test tips will help you get the proper position to apply to the program of your choice, because as I said, that is the base of the pyramid of the application. And if you're wondering what the base of the pyramid is and all of that, check out the general guidelines of how to apply to a BSMD program. It's called the No Nonsense Guide, because I really tried to distill it down to what I thought was most applicable. That ends the video. If you're interested in reaching out on any other social media platform, I'm at CS Medicine on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm at commonsensemd.com. If you're interested in learning about the podcast that I run or any other of the videos that are on this channel, I have a series on the MCAT. I don't think you're going to need that for the next 3 years, but if you do, definitely check that out. And also, if you're interested in what I think about medical education and healthcare and all of that, I do run a podcast called Common Sense Medicine. And I think that's going to be it for this video. Next week, we're going to talk about how you can curate your application as you're preparing for interview day, and when you get to interview day, what should you expect. So definitely feel free to stay tuned for that. And I think that's going to be it for this video. Remember, it's just common sense, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.